Robert1 here, and welcome to Konami Fix the Banlist, a segment on my channel that I haven't done for quite some time, but it's basically a segment where we talk about cards that I believe should be semi-limited, limited, banned, unlimited, and anything along the lines of that. And basically, I've not done this subject for quite a while, and that's basically because there hasn't really been anything I've seen that really needed to go in the game for quite some time, and we've always been close to a ban list whenever something really was doing a lot of big problems in the game. So I didn't really feel the need to make a video on this subject to talk about it, because I'll just be making a ban list prediction the week after, or the week that I was going to probably make that video. So but now, seeing as the ban list has come, we ain't getting one until next year, and there's actually quite a few cards in the game right now that need to go. I feel like it is time to talk about some of these cards. Now, I do have a list. Don't know how many of these videos we'll be doing again, but let's get into this one. So, today's card that we are going to be talking about that I feel like needs to be limited, preferred banned, but limited, is where it should go, is there can be only one. And this is basically a continuous trap card, Floodgate, that states each player can only control one monster of each type. If a player controls two or more monsters of the same type, they must send some to the graveyard so they control no more than one monster type. Now, what does this basically mean? Well, one of that type. What does this basically mean? Well, if you're playing any deck that revolves around one specific type, you're not playing the game. You're not going to be able to play the game. You're going to be sitting there, you're going to look at your opponent, and you're going to be like, cool. Oh, okay. Oh, you finally won? Oh, cool. Next game. Citing all the back row hate. And now, guys, I understand even at 1, this card would still be really broken, and it would be very sacky at 1. But let's talk about why I feel like this card needs to be at 1. Now, looking at cards throughout the ages, there have always been these cards that have been very easy to out, but if your opponent has a second one of those cards, you're going to lose. And that's what this kind of card is for me. It's a card where, sure, if your opponent has one of these cards, it's fine because it's a very easy to out card. But when your opponent flips that second one against you, there's just no hope anymore. You've lost. You're not going to do anything. You're done. And that's my problem with this card. It's a card that literally says a lot of decks can't play the game. Off the top of my head, there are decks that can't play the game. Let's talk about them. First, Heroes. Heroes can barely play the game under this card. Sure, if they can make Dystopia somehow boost it, and then they can pop the card, but if your opponent has a second one, you're not going to be out in it because you can't use the Stratos to pop back row. Most hero decks don't even main back row removal. They side it, and even in games 2 and 3, if you don't open multiple back row removal, and your opponent has the second one, you're not going to do anything. In August, well, August deserves to get hit by this card, but nonetheless, this deck absolutely loses to this card half the time. Because if your opponent flips this card against you, unless they're maining the Twin Twisters, the Cosmic Cyclones, or any sort of back row removal outside of Phoenix, like they could make the Phoenix, to be fair, if they're playing a monster with a different type, but if they don't have a monster with a different type and they can't make the Phoenix, you're not outing this card. And again, if your opponent flips a second one, you're not going to do anything because of, oh, now I just can't play the games with Fiends, and now I can't make machines, and now I'm just going to be sitting here forever because I can't out this card. And like other decks as well, Thunder Dragons play almost, I'm not even sure if it's almost, I'm pretty sure it's just 0 back row removal. Like, literally, this is a card that says, like, decks that, like, I'm talking about the top tier, and yes, this card does prevent top tier decks from being super powerful, but it's a card that prevents even lower tier decks from playing the game. Like, lower tier deck examples, there's quite a lot. My mind's not working very well right now, though. Like, Autogeist, they're not the highest tier right now. It doesn't work. Magical Musketeers, if you can flip this card against them and they have like a Starfire or something, then they're unable to play the game because of like, okay, I needed to resolve this Starfire to get to the Casper, which would that mean get a face-up pop card. If you have any card that if your deck just revolves around one specific type, this card is just dumb. And you want to know what this deck card boosts? What decks this card boosts? Oh, stun decks. Like stun decks in general, control decks, like decks that, sure, they gain some real big advantage from this card, but these decks aren't affected by the card themselves because the decks don't do enough without the card. Like literally, majority of the decks that I'm about to state don't do amazing without this card. Now, let's go off the list. Number 1, True Draco. True Draco have always been that deck that are really strong and really powerful, but Lair Can Only Be One just puts it on another level where your opponent can't do anything to out your board. Even if you have the Erupt, you're just unable to play from that point because your opponent has got the There Can Only Be One and could even have an Erupt as well. Guru Control. Oh, I'm just going to set my monsters, set your monsters, continue to control the game. I'm not going to let you have any more monsters, and I'm going to not be able to play the game whatsoever, because you're not going to be able to play the game whatsoever, because all my monsters are different types, and yours aren't. So I'm just going to keep beating you down, I'm going to not let you control any multiples of monsters, and you're just going to lose from that point on. Sky Striker, a deck that's literally been here for over a year, and is still doing well, is only doing well now because of There Can Only Be One, pretty much. Sure, drawing multiple engages can win you a YCS. Pascal, winning a YCS by drawing engage off engage off engage. That just track fact right there. But it's one of the main reasons I bet he got to that top cut was There Can Only Be One. I'm pretty sure it was in his list. Like, I'm 99.9% sure that 3 of those cards in his list was There Can Only Be One. And it's just like his deck was even built to turbo into There Can Only Be One. And like, there's just so many decks that just abuse There Can Only Be One. Majority of those 3 that I just mentioned, and it's not a fair card. It's a card that literally states majority of decks in the game can't play, but this small minority just wins. Like, especially Sky Striker. You won a YCS with this deck. It shouldn't happen anymore. Widow Anchor's at 1. But you know what probably helped get them there? And well, I only lost 2 because... Well, I didn't lose to it specifically, but time on the round was a thing. But I lost to round 1 at YCS because of this card as well. And I admit Salt Factor is probably one of the reasons I'm making this video. But this is a serious thing where this card is just absolutely insane when you really think about it. Being a card that literally says, oh, 90% of the game's decks can't play because There Can Only Be One is a thing. And if you want to play the game, you're going to need to play this card in general just to be able to out it, or you're going to have to main back row removal when majority of the big decks don't even use back row. Like, the best back row removal is Cosmic Cyclone, and if your opponent has the second There Can Only Be One, you lost. You can't play the game. You're done. You're done. Finito. You can't play. You're getting out. The slow playing Italians are going after you. We're gonna flip the There Can Only Be One. So watch you. Eh? That was a terrible Italian accent. But my point stands. There Can Only Be One literally is a card that just says, oh, you're playing a deck with one type. Can't play the game. Can't play the game. Oh, I have a second one. I have other negations to protect this card. It's just not a fair card. And that's my personal opinions on this card. It's an easy to out card, which is why I feel like the card at 1 would be fine. But being at 3, being able to have multiples of this card, makes this card absolutely insane. And I feel like it needs to go because of that. It's a card that literally says, you can't play the game, but I can. And I don't feel like that's fair. Like, it's cards like Colossus and this that just make the game not fun because you're... Sure, cards like Colossus are easy to play around because you don't always need to search, but a card that literally just restricts you to one type and just doesn't even let you go into your extra deck half the time, doesn't even let you utilize your hand, your deck, anything around you, and just says you can't play the game, it's not fair. It's honestly not fair. It being at 1 is an honestly fair opinion on mine. I feel like the card going to 1 would be a lot fairer. I would prefer the card banned because obvious reasons. It's a card that just says a lot of decks can't play the game. But at the same time, you can't ban a card like this because there are still a ton of decks in the game that need this kind of restriction and need the kind of help that this card can give. But guys, that's just my personal opinion. I feel like the card should go to 1. What do you personally think? 1, 3, 0... tell me what your personal thoughts and opinions are on this card. This has been Konami Fix the Ban List. I do have a few more of these planned because I've got some more cards to talk about. Like, I'm not going to tell you in this video because then you come back later, you find out the cards, you have some fun, and all of that good stuff. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Robot1, signing out. Later, guys.